Take a walk past your local dealer and you'll feel it. Rows of unsold bikes gathering dust. Here's the truth they won't say on camera. Nearly 2 million motorcycles just hit the used market in one quarter. Harleys, Hondas, Goldwings, machines that held value for years are now fighting for bids. Dealers are paying interest on bikes they can't move, and the floor plan clock's bleeding them dry. Stick around, because I'll show you the receipts, what caused the flood, and how to protect your wallet before it hits your garage. The 2 million dump hits the street. Nobody saw it coming this fast. Across the country, nearly 2 million gasoline motorcycles, everything from late-model cruisers to trade-in tourers, have poured into storage yards, auctions, and dealer backlots. What looked like a slow correction has turned into a flood. Auctioneers call it a 5-year supply compressed into 1 quarter. Rows of machines that once fetched 20 grand now sit under tarps, waiting for bids that never come. Dealers whisper about the overflow quietly, afraid of spooking customers still paying on loans. But the truth leaks out in every classified feed. Listings multiply overnight. Search results that once showed 10 clean examples of a Road King now show 200. Many posted within a single week. Warehouse footage from the Midwest shows forklifts shuffling pallets of crated bikes between yards like unsold Christmas stock. Within days of the first dump, asking prices started to crack. A machine listed for $14,000 drops to $12,000, then to $10,000, and still sits. Private sellers follow the spiral, chasing buyers who already sense blood in the water. The collapse isn't rumor anymore. It's visible, measurable, and spreading. Every market has a breaking point. In motorcycles, it's when pride becomes inventory. That's where we are now. Bikes that once symbolized freedom are stacked like unsold appliances. And the question every rider's asking is the same. If demand's flat, why were they still building this many in the first place? So why didn't the factories hit the brakes? Why factories wouldn't stop building? Inside the plants, the machines never stopped humming. Factory managers knew demand had cooled, but shutting down lines wasn't an option. Supplier contracts forced production minimums, and the penalties for breaking them ran into the millions. One manager put it bluntly: it was cheaper to keep making bikes nobody ordered than to idle the floor and lose parts deals. Politics played its role too. No executive wanted to be the one announcing layoffs before an election cycle. Keeping the lights on meant good optics, steady jobs, local paychecks, patriotic headlines. Out on the floor, crews clocked in and kept welding frames that had no destination. Dealers begged for slower shipments. The trucks kept rolling anyway. Shareholders demanded stability, not realism. Production targets had already been promised in quarterly calls, and missing them would shake confidence on Wall Street. So factories kept churning out chrome and steel, filling lots, stacking crates, and pretending that spring sales would catch up. It was optimism, or denial, on autopilot. By late in the year, some plants quietly shifted to weekend-only runs, but the backlog was already baked in. The damage was done. Too many bikes, too few riders. And once the metal started stacking higher than the showroom walls, the numbers began to tell a story that marketing couldn't hide. Once the metal stacked up, the numbers told the truth. If this hits home, drop a like right now and tell me in the comments what you're seeing in your area. Prices don't lie, and real riders deserve the truth. Prices slide for gasoline bikes. When the first dealer reports surfaced, many riders dismissed them as rumor. Then the data hit. Pricing guides, auction sheets, and sales ledgers showed a slide too deep to ignore. In several regions, median selling prices fell by 20% within a single quarter. The gap between asking and sold widened every week. Bikes that used to move in 10 days now sat for 60. Dealers tried to dress it up with limited incentives, but buyers had already done the math. Trade-in offers shrank by thousands. The used market, once a safe haven for classic value, began undercutting itself. Charts from industry analysts told the same story. Prices down, volume up, margins bleeding. A road glide that fetched $16,000 last summer now struggles to pull $9,000. Private owners felt it next. Riders checking classifieds realized their pride and joy was worth less than their insurance payoff. Some held on, hoping for a rebound. Others cut losses before the next auction wave. Across the Midwest and South, those who had bought late in the boom watched depreciation eat what they thought was equity. The data didn't lie. What began as dealer discounts had turned into a system-wide correction, and no brand was immune. From Japanese touring rigs to American baggers, gasoline bikes everywhere were losing ground. But the fall doesn't hit everyone at once. Quick pit stop. Gears and accessories I trust are linked in the description. Grab what you need, then let's get back to the playbook. Segment by segment collapse. The collapse has its order, just like any storm. First to fall were the commuter machines, the light standards and small cruisers bought by budget riders and first-timers. When gas prices steadied, those buyers stepped away, leaving rows of unsold entry bikes behind. Dealers who once bragged about quick flips now run promotions just to clear space. Next came the mid-weight cruisers, the weekend toys that once filled suburban garages. Payments and insurance caught up, and owners decided one bike was enough. Listings for 800 to 1100 cc machines exploded, often with barely ridden captions. The sentimental value couldn't survive the financial math. After that came the touring rigs and the big adventure bikes. These were supposed to be recession-proof, the kings of the highway, immune to panic. But when even retirees started delaying upgrades, premium models lost their shield. A machine that once sat at $20,000 now trades hands for half that. The aura of exclusivity vanished the moment buyers realized how many similar units were gathering dust. European imports have started to feel it too. What was once boutique now looks like liability. High service costs scare buyers who've seen too many for sale signs. The hierarchy that separated Harley from Honda, BMW from Yamaha, is flattening fast. Every brand is fighting for the same shrinking pool of cautious buyers. This is how a market unwinds, not with drama, but with silence. Each week, another category gives up a few $1,000s in value, and nobody can find the floor. The flood didn't just change prices, it changed pride. The badge on the tank doesn't matter if everyone's bike is suddenly worth the same. Now step onto the showroom floor and listen. Showrooms bleeding. The floor plan math. Walk into any dealership right now and you can feel the tension hiding behind the smiles. Managers are not just fighting soft demand, they are fighting the calendar. Every unsold motorcycle sitting on that floor costs money every single day. Most dealers finance their inventory through what the industry calls a floor plan. It sounds harmless enough until you run the numbers. Take one gasoline touring bike that cost $15,000 wholesale. At just a few percentage points of interest, that bike costs several dollars a day to sit there gathering dust. Multiply that across 40 or 50 units, and the dealership bleeds thousands each month before a single key turns in a new ignition. Dealers try to juggle it with factory incentives or aging unit forgiveness programs, but the math never stops. Once a motorcycle sits more than 90 days, the holding costs eat the margin alive. Managers know the longer a bike stays, the less they make. That's why end-of-month sales push so hard. Every extra week means more interest, more pressure, and more willingness to deal. Buyers who understand this leverage quietly walk in near the month's end and shave hundreds, sometimes thousands, off sticker without saying a word. The quiet truth of the floor plan is that time is money, literally. Every day that passes burns through profit like a slow leak. It's not emotion, it's math, and the numbers never lie. Worse, a hidden clock already subtracts value. The regulation countdown. While most riders blame dealers for the crash, another force is quietly cutting into values: government compliance calendars. Every few years, emissions rules tighten, and that means new model certifications. For gasoline motorcycles, these deadlines act like a timer on depreciation. Once a regulation year flips, older engines instantly lose part of their resale because they are certified to an outdated spec. It's not about performance, it's about paperwork. Buyers see non-current and hesitate even if the bike runs perfectly. Manufacturers plan new models around those compliance windows, usually launching fresh updates right after certification changes. It creates an artificial cycle of obsolescence. A machine built in 2022 may be mechanically identical to a 2024 version, but if the emissions label carries the old standard, its trade-in value drops on cue. Dealers know this. They time rebates and clear-outs ahead of every new cycle to dump inventory before the clock resets. Savvy riders have started tracking those calendars instead of brochures. They know when a model is about to become last spec, and they use that timing to negotiate price drops. It's the unspoken rhythm of the gasoline world. Government deadlines turn into discount triggers. For riders paying attention, that knowledge is worth more than any loyalty program. Layer politics on top, and identical bikes price out differently. Tariffs, VIN origins, and the price gap. Not every motorcycle's price is shaped by supply and demand alone. Hidden beneath the paint and chrome, a small sequence of letters and numbers, the vehicle identification number, can mean thousands of dollars at checkout. Two gasoline bikes, same model and same year, might roll off different plants. One built in Wisconsin, another in Thailand, or sometimes Brazil. The origin code buried in that VIN decides which tariff applies when it hits a US port. A 5% tariff here, a 7% freight surcharge there. It adds up fast. Buyers have started decoding VINs before signing anything. Forums circulate plant lists, showing which prefixes mean cheaper landed cost. Dealers hate it, but they can't hide it. A customer who knows his VINs can walk into a showroom and point straight at the lower tariff unit. Suddenly, the manager has to explain why two identical bikes are priced a few thousand apart. Cross-state arbitrage has become the newest game. Riders check neighboring states where allocation mixes differ. A Florida buyer might fly to Texas, save $2,000, and still ride home ahead. It's not magic. It's manufacturing geography colliding with policy. The more global the supply chain, the less consistent the price tag. What used to be a straight sticker price is now a decoding puzzle that smart riders use to their advantage. Meanwhile, the real floor gets set where the public rarely looks. Auction gravity, lanes that set the floor. Every Friday morning in dusty warehouses from Ohio to Nevada, the real motorcycle market reveals itself. These aren't retail showrooms or glossy commercials. They're auction lanes, where dealers quietly buy and sell among themselves. What happens there sets the tone for every price that follows. When too many bikes hit the block, the lane average drops, and that new lower number drags retail down with it. Last year, a clean late-model touring Harley might have fetched $12,000 at wholesale. Today, lanes struggle to clear $8,000. Retailers pretend otherwise for a few weeks, but once a dozen bikes sell under $10,000, buyers catch on. Those wholesale figures act like gravity. No dealer can float above them for long without losing sales. When salvage titles start climbing, clean title bikes take another hit. A surge in lightly damaged repos floods the channels, and within weeks the spread between perfect and imperfect units narrows. Riders shopping online don't see the difference. They only see cheaper. Dealers know it's hopeless to fight gravity. Their retail prices must follow the lanes or they'll sit on inventory forever. The invisible marketplace, the one behind the scenes, decides what every buyer pays. It's cold, fast, and brutally fair. Every time a hammer drops in those halls, another layer of price support disappears. That's how the crash keeps its momentum, one bid at a time. When floors drop, badges lose their shield. Badges lose their shine. For decades, the badge on a tank told the world who you were. Harley-Davidson meant American grit. Ducati meant Italian muscle. BMW stood for German precision. Riders paid extra for those letters, believing they were buying pride as much as performance. But in a flooded market, the badge doesn't carry the same weight. Oversupply has stripped away mystique. When every lot is stacked with unsold machines, that shiny emblem doesn't guarantee value anymore. Forums and resale sites prove it daily. Riders now brag about function per dollar instead of brand loyalty. A guy posting from Missouri says he picked up a Japanese cruiser for half the price of a used Harley and rides twice as far on the same tank. Another rider counters that his Road King might have soul, but the resale doesn't feel like it. These conversations used to end in arguments about heritage. Now they end with spreadsheets comparing depreciation curves. The hierarchy is collapsing. Prestige bikes lose ground fastest because their premium was built on belief. When the numbers go transparent, belief fades. Riders still love the ride, but they no longer pay for the logo. The conversation has shifted from what you ride to how much you saved. For the first time in years, the badge can't hide behind chrome. It has to prove itself on the road, not the balance sheet. Investors notice when Aura stops paying bills. Investors flinch, credit tightens. Behind the closed doors of conference calls, the tone has changed. Analysts who once applauded steady growth now circle the word correction. Earnings reports reveal softer guidance, cautious language about inventory, and vague references to strategic adjustments. What it really means is pain. Floor plan costs are up, unit margins are down, and credit is getting tighter by the week. Dealers rely on borrowed money to keep the lights on, and lenders are starting to flinch. Banks have begun to quietly shorten repayment terms. Where dealers once had 6 months to move inventory before interest spiked, many now have 90 days. That compresses breathing room, forcing desperate sales near quarter end. Manufacturers feel the squeeze too. Marketing budgets shrink first, followed by R&D pauses. Some factories quietly delay model updates just to protect cash flow. The confidence that once propped up entire corporate images now feels brittle. When the balance sheets lose faith, the culture follows. Once a brand's financial credibility cracks, investors stop talking about motorcycles and start talking about liabilities. A Wall Street analyst doesn't care about V-twin heritage. He cares about debt ratios. Stocks slide, dividends wobble, and suddenly even loyal investors treat once proud manufacturers like risky bets. The image of eternal stability vanishes in a single quarter, replaced by nervous silence in the boardroom. Pressure rolls downhill to the line workers next. Overtime evaporates, labor pushes back. Inside the plants, the rhythm of production has slowed to a crawl. Second shifts, once filled with overtime chatter, now echo with quiet. Management calls it temporary schedule optimization. Workers know what it really means. Hours cut, paychecks lighter, and families struggling to make ends meet. When overtime disappears, so does the sense of progress. A lot of these workers built motorcycles for 20 or 30 years, proud to keep the tradition alive. Now they clock out early and wonder if they'll still have a job next month. Unions are stirring again, demanding minimum hour guarantees and better severance protections. They've seen this movie before. The slowdown always hits the floor before it hits the corner office. Meetings at union halls are packed. Members talk about dignity as much as dollars. They're not asking for luxury, they're asking for stability. When the industry bloats itself with overproduction and then cuts labor to fix the books, people remember. The bitterness runs deep. Outside the plants, the ripple spreads through entire communities. Suppliers lose contracts, diners lose regulars, local shops lose the weekend rush. Towns built on the rhythm of motorcycle paychecks feel the absence like a heartbeat skipping. The crash isn't just numbers, it's livelihoods. And the people who built the machines that defined freedom are now chained to the fallout of corporate miscalculation. And riders? They stopped buying blind. The spreadsheet revolt. Buyers take control. Riders have always been passionate, but now they're strategic. In the aftermath of the dump, they've learned how to weaponize information. Gone are the days when a salesman's word sealed the deal. Buyers now show up with screenshots, VIN breakdowns, rebate maps, and out-the-door comparisons from 3 states away. Transparency killed the sticker mystique. If a dealer tries to bluff, the customer pulls up a spreadsheet proving a better price across the border. The movement started quietly online. A few riders posted receipts showing how much they actually paid, not what the ads promised. Others added rebate codes, trade-in tricks, and interest rate hacks. Within months, entire communities were sharing real contracts. One site now hosts thousands of verified purchase breakdowns by model and year. It's a silent revolution powered by data, not slogans. The spreadsheet became the new weapon of the working-class rider. Dealers either adapt or vanish. Some meet the honesty head-on, pricing transparently and earning trust. Others cling to the old games and lose customers forever. Riders, especially older ones who've been through every sales pitch, are done with mystery pricing. They know the playbook, and they use it. The balance of power has flipped for good. When knowledge spreads faster than marketing, the truth wins. And in this new world, the buyer holds the throttle. Now the factories redraw the playbook to survive. If you care about riding smart, not just riding loud, hit subscribe. Every week we expose what the industry hides, so your next ride doesn't cost you twice. Factory counter moves. Factories rarely admit defeat. They just change the paperwork. As the glut of gasoline motorcycles keeps yards full, the major brands are rewriting their internal playbooks. The first move is simplification. Instead of offering 10 trims with half a dozen color packages, they cut the catalog to the essentials. Dealers receive cleaner order sheets, fewer build combinations, and faster turnaround. What looks like streamlining is really triage, an attempt to move metal without calling it a fire sale. Next comes the quiet MSRP reset. Publicly, no company wants to announce a price cut. It signals weakness, so they call it realignment. Optional packages become standard, or fees quietly disappear from the fine print. The sticker looks unchanged, but the out-the-door number is suddenly lower. It's a face-saving way to discount without saying the word. Allocation is the final lever. Bikes are redirected from saturated regions to ones that still show movement. A plant that once shipped heavily to the Midwest now sends half its load to the Southwest, where open road culture still drives sales. These regional shifts help bleed off excess stock while keeping national figures from looking disastrous. Factories pretend it's a marketing adjustment, but every insider knows it's a pressure valve to release inventory before next year's models roll off the line. Politicians hear the anger and grab the mic. Politics of affordability and origin. When prices go wild, politics follows. What started as a market correction has turned into a campaign talking point. Candidates now use motorcycle affordability as shorthand for the broader cost of living crisis. They stand in front of empty dealerships and promise to bring balance back to American manufacturing. Voters listen but roll their eyes. They know the real issue runs deeper than speeches. Tariffs turned chaotic. 2 identical gasoline bikes cost wildly different amounts. One built in Ohio sells for $12,000. Another from Thailand hits $14,000 after penalties and freight. Politicians exploit the mess, vowing to fix unfair origin codes, but riders have heard the same empty promises before. Meanwhile, policy noise keeps checkout math unstable. Trade groups lobby for exemptions, but every change spooks the factories into adjusting prices again. By the time a new rule hits the books, the real-world impact has already shifted. The average rider sitting at his kitchen table, calculator in hand, doesn't trust any of it. He just wants a fair deal without political theater attached. But in this climate, even a VIN tag has become a voting issue. While they argue, you plan your best window, where the deals hide. Riders who understand timing can play the market like a mechanic tunes a carburetor, carefully, patiently, with results that pay off. The best deals never show up in bold print. They appear in patterns. Shoulder seasons, those quiet months between spring hype and fall closeouts, open long conversations with sales teams desperate for movement. When foot traffic drops, negotiations stretch further, and buyers who walk in with cash control the pace. End-of-month and end-of-quarter deadlines create another opportunity. Dealers working under quotas get anxious as the calendar flips. That's when the phone calls start. If you can pick it up this weekend, I can do another $500 off. Those moments favor the buyer who's ready. It's not luck, it's simple math against pressure. Then there's the model year shuffle. When next year's bikes are about to hit the trucks, last year's stock suddenly becomes aged. Factory incentives appear overnight. What looked overpriced a week ago becomes a bargain once a compliance update or paint refresh is announced. Add in regional shipping differences, and you can shave thousands by watching allocation timing. The trick isn't chasing hype, it's reading cycles. Every rider can do it if they treat the market like a machine, with patience, precision, and a steady throttle hand. Under the noise, the culture resets. Back to tools, not toys. Something unexpected is happening beneath all the chaos. As the market deflates and the hype dies, riders are rediscovering why they fell in love with motorcycles in the first place. The talk around garages and roadside diners has shifted from gadgets and badges to endurance and comfort. Men who once bragged about chrome accessories now swap notes about seat foam, gear ratios, and highway mileage. Pride is returning to the basics. Machines built to go the distance, not impress the showroom. Clubs that used to compete over custom paint jobs are hosting iron butt rides again, celebrating real miles instead of modifications. Stories echo of cross-country runs on bikes with 200,000 miles, still pulling strong because their owners refuse to trade up for gadgets. The new prestige is reliability. Riders take pride in keeping old gasoline engines alive, proving craftsmanship still matters more than marketing. You can see it in the classifieds too. Simplified builds, stripped-down tourers, and honest commuters are climbing in respect even as prices across the board stay soft. Function has become fashion again. After years of chasing image, the culture is coming full circle. Back to the road, back to the ride, back to motorcycles as tools of freedom instead of toys for status. So that's where we stand, brother. 2 million bikes dumped, prices bleeding, and riders caught in the middle. But knowledge is still horsepower. If you know what's coming, you ride smarter and spend less. I want to hear from you. What's happening at your local dealer? Are prices dropping, or are they still holding the line? Drop your miles, model, and story down below. Real riders read every comment. If this helped you see through the noise, hit that thumbs up, share it with your crew, and subscribe, because the next breakdown drops soon, and you'll want the truth first.